So we're back to working on the interior of the boat. It's gotten cold outside, and so we're done with the exterior for now. We're back inside the boat, and we're starting with the quarter berth, which is where the bunk beds are going to be. So we're going to start working on the bunk beds this week. It's a really fun project to start thinking about how the boat is going to be used in interior-wise. Think about where people are sleeping and how best to utilize the space. So it's been a really fun project. My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. I had a ton of off-cut foam and fiberglass pieces that I wanted to use up, and this project is perfect for that. So I started by cutting up a bunch of those pieces into strips to build the sides of the bunks. So I'm going to start building the bunks for the starboard side quarter berth where the sea berths will be. There are two bunks, obviously, one on top of the other, but there's two sides to each bunk, and they're going to be built identical to each other, the beams that make the bunk. And so since there's two bunks, there's going to be 4 beams that I have to make. So to make the process a little bit faster, to build all 4 of those beams, I made this strong back. A strong back is like a form. A lot of people use them for when they're building boats, like a stitch and glue style boat. They'll use a strong back to make the shape of the boat that they bend their plywood around. So I'm not bending any plywood. It's just going to be straight pieces. But the reason that I made this is because it's at a 30-degree angle, and so it'll make it really easy to just set the pieces on it and glue them together. It'll make it really quick. So this is my first little test piece. This is the bottom of the bunk where the planks will rest on. This is the side where the mattress will be up against. And so it's at this perfect 30-degree angle. And all I'm going to do is super glue these together, and then I'll lay a bunch of fiberglass on the bottom and the top. And then there will be other parts that, when the bunk is installed in the boat, I'm actually going to build the entire part in the shop and then install it in the boat later. After the fiberglass pieces were cut and the strong back was put together, I could start gluing the beams together. This cyanoacrylate adhesive, I think they call it CNA glue. It's like model airplane glue, and it's really cool because I can just put it on the foam surface and spray with the stuff, and 10 seconds later it's cured. So super handy for gluing foam parts together.
Spray sets the glue, so I can now take it off. There you go. So now I'm just going to fiberglass this whole thing together to make it super strong. And yeah, that'll be the bunk. One of them. Beam number 2. There you go, number 2.
Okay, this will be beam number 3. This one's going to be a little bit different. It'll be the top inboard beam, and so this one will have no support underneath it, and so it has to be kind of a standalone beam that will be able to carry somebody. And so I'm going to be using a little bit 1-inch thick foam as opposed to the 1/2-inch thick foam as the like horizontal plane that the planks will sit on. Just like that. After the beams were glued together, it was time to laminate. We got these beams glued together, and now I'm just going to start laminating over them. I have 4 beams to do, obviously, but what's important here is that this ledge, which will end up being the horizontal ledge, this is what the planks will sit on. This has to be really strong, and so that's what I'm working on tonight, is laminating over this little edge and starting to make these pieces beefy enough to hold somebody sleeping.
Obligatory epoxy pumping.
My favorite time of the day.
Maybe we should choose a theme music for epoxy pumping.
It's a good idea.
Maybe some heavy metal.
Some ween.
Some ween. How are you going to feel when the lamination era is over under cell? Are you going to miss laminating?
Well, you know, these big... Maybe. I think I'll be pretty preoccupied with other fun projects. I'm sure I'll find lots of other little vacuum bags to do. Are you going to be sad it's over?
Devastated. I don't know, I'm going to kind of miss these cozy lamination nights.
The next morning, I finished laminating the rest of the beams. Then it was time to build the parts that are around each beam. I started with the outboard side of the top bunk. This one will be right up against the window where there will be a shelf next to the bed going the length of the bunk. It's that time in the project where I will be doing a ton of templating. So I templated out the longitudinal wall that will be underneath the bunk side, supporting the bunk, and cut it out to fit it to the boat. I added a couple of small bulkheads that will help support the bunk transversely. Then I moved on to templating the shelf. I start with a laser to find the plane that I'm filling with the template and use little blocks along that plane to hold the template. Then I use door skin strips 2.5 inches wide, cut to length to find the shape of the piece I need to make the part. After the template is done, I use it as a pattern to trace out the shape onto the foam and fiberglass piece and cut it out. Again, I'm trying to use up a bunch of offcuts from old projects, so I'm kind of piecing these parts together. Once that outboard section was pieced together, I was very curious to see what the whole bunk was going to look like, so I set up the inboard part with it. I used the CNA glue to glue that outboard part together, and then pulled it out and took it to the shop. There, I fiberglassed together all the seams that will be hidden behind it. This way, I'm not fiberglassing the whole thing together in an awkward place inside the boat. I can get it done on the bench, which is a lot easier. Once it is glued into the boat, I will have to fiberglass it in place, but that won't be too bad. The next day, it was one solid part that I could fit into the boat. I mixed up some thickened epoxy and stuck it in place. It was a pretty tight fit, which is a good thing. That means I use less glue, which saves weight and expense.
You wanna come in?
What were you doing, Paz? What were you doing? It's not time for that inspection yet. Paz is doing some sneak inspections up in the bow.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Did we pass?
Well, they're like surprise inspections and they're a little premature.
What are you looking at? It's too bad she doesn't actually know what she's looking at.
Wait, you are a professional, aren't you? She's in some kind of like inspection frenzy. Oh! You want to go in there, Inspector? Can she go in the systems room, Matt?
Yeah, I suppose.
This was not a scheduled inspection, La Paz. What? Whoa.
Alright, I missed something.
I really hate these surprise inspections. I like when they're scheduled.
Yeah. Can't do anything about it though.
Yeah, I guess the law's the law.
It's like OSHA coming around.
I guess it's her right as an inspector. She really wants to go in there, but she doesn't know if her head will fit.
The next part is the top inboard beam. This one will be a lot different because it will only be supported at its ends, so it has to be built more like a structural beam so it doesn't flex or break while someone is sleeping in it. I also wanted a place for some handholds, so this was a good opportunity to build both strength and function into this part. The added handhold will act like the bottom of an I-beam, adding a ton of stiffness to the bunk. I used unidirectional carbon fiber on top and bottom of the part, which makes the top and bottom of the beam, and then fiberglass the foam between, which makes the shear web. I vacuum bagged this whole part together all in one shot. This was a mistake because the handholds were flexing in the vacuum bag, and after it had cured you can see that the handholds are not straight. I should have fiberglassed around the handholds first to make them rigid, and then done the big lamination vacuum bag. I can fix the handholds with some trimming and fairing, but it is extra work that I made for myself. I got this idea from folks in the comments in that they were saying that the upper bunk should be like removable or adjustable, like removable, so that the lower bunk could have lots more space when there's only one person in the room. And so this is the idea I came up with, in that I'm just going to make this inboard piece stowable, basically. And so what I'll have to figure out is what I'm going to do. There'll be a bunch of slats in here that supports the mattress, and then there's the mattress. So it'll be easy to stow this piece, and probably easy to stow the slats. And then I'm thinking that the mattress could be used as like a seat back for the lower bunk, to make it basically a big couch, just a little bit more comfortable down there when there's only one person that's using the stateroom. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. But this piece I had just finished yesterday. It has a lot of cleanup and stuff obviously to do, but and I'll have to make some nice mounts for it and everything. This is just the test fitting.
So show us again how you stash it.
There's some trimming that needs to happen, but it's something like that. I mean, that's not exactly how it's going to go, but I think that would work pretty well. So, and then yeah, it just easily fits right there.
Is it time to call it a night?
I've had enough.
You've had enough of Duracell for a day?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go watch football.
I've had some really, really long days and long nights the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've heard you say you're kind of tired by 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm. I am anxious to get to the lower bunk, though. I think it'll be pretty cool. Have this put together.
Is that tomorrow's adventure?
Yeah. We have some more Patreons to thank this week. Again, thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. We could not do this without you. Thank you so much. So first, thank you to David, who's from Virginia. David is a landlubber, but he happened to have this really awesome poster that he sent us, apart from becoming a Patreon. So we really appreciate it, David. Also, thank you to Andrew, who is in Toronto. He has this really great Niagara 42 and sails J105s. His dad was an Olympic sailor for Canada, and I think he said the 1964 Olympics on the Flying Dutchman. Been sailing his whole life and continues to cruise and race. Also, thank you to Lynn, his wife Michelle, and their dog Benet. They have a Gulf Star that they sail here locally in the Puget Sound. Lynn is also in the marine trades here in Puget Sound, and one day I'd like to go see what he's up to over there in Anacortes. But they cruise their Gulf Star around the San Juans and up north from there. So thank you very much to Lynn and Michelle and Benet. Also, thank you to Greg, who's out in England. He sails, or used to sail, this really cool Dragonfly. I think it's a 920. But he grew up sailing, racing dinghies, and later got into big boat sailing. So thank you very much to Greg. Last thank you to Ed, who's out in Wyoming, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. They have a Beneteau that they keep on San Francisco Bay, and they're planning to upgrade to a bigger one, and hopefully we'll see them up in the Puget Sound here soon. So thank you very much to Ed.